Hey there, good morning. Welcome to the JeepSolid garage. So today we're going to be installing the transmission on David's 1996 Jeep XJ. I almost said Wrangler there. Cherokee XJ. That's what I'm working on. Got a Wrangler over here though. Anyways, this is all part of a video series where we replaced the clutch on his XJ. And that series is listed in the description below. This series is sponsored by South Bend Clutch. Their website is linked down below as well, so check that out. The transmission installation, we're going to give you some tips and tricks as we go along here. It's not going to be a super thorough installation video. If you want every single step, go check out the transmission removal and do the reverse of that. But I definitely have some good tips for you guys on this one. So let's get started. So we got the new throwout bearing installed on the clutch fork there, a new spring. You definitely got to get a new spring down on the ball on that side. So that's all done. Transmission is ready to go back up in place. And of course the new clutch from South Bend Clutch installed. The flywheel's been resurfaced. That's all ready to go. Now we've got all these connections that we're gonna have to hook up as we go along. Our speed sensor, the clutch or the crank position sensor. Up top here, our shift lever that goes into the top of the transmission. A lot of these things are hard to show on camera until you get it off. And our starter comes in right over there, grabs onto the side of the flywheel. So we're going to start rustling the transmission up into place. And we want to get it lined up straight with the engine in the same alignment. So like say the back end of the engine is down a little bit, we're going to want the back end of the transmission down a little bit, just so they're at the same angle, because we want the input shaft on the transmission to go straight in to the new pilot bearing we have installed in there deep inside the clutch. And as we're doing that, we don't want to mess up any of the fingers on the pressure plate or anything. So we're also going to use on each side, there's these little studs. There's one there, and then there's one on the transmission side right here. We're going to use those to kind of help line us up so that we know we're in the right position. We're going to pull the transmission forward. Having one of these transmission jacks is super handy. I've kind of used some blocks of wood to tip the transmission back. So I have it kind of in alignment with the same angle as the engine. We're going to jack it up now, and we want to make sure that input shaft right in the center there goes straight into the center of the clutch. I'm going to bring transmission up. Looks like we're getting pretty close. So now I can't see the input shaft anymore, so I'm going to be judging by where the dowel pins are lined up. Now I've got a bolt started on each side here, and we can use those to gently pull it in. You don't want to force it, because the teeth of the clutch could be off a little bit, and you might have to turn the clutch just a little bit. Here's the old clutch, for example. So the splines of the input shaft on the transmission have to line up with the splines on the clutch disc there. So that's why you might have to turn the engine a little bit. And to turn the crank or the clutch, we can come down here to the front side of the engine, to the vibration damper down there, and that bolt right there in the center. If you turn that clockwise, it'll turn the engine. So David's going to use the wrench to kind of pull it forward. You just want to make sure you're not forcing it at all. If it's not going easy, you need to stop and kind of get things realigned.
Sliding in a lot easier now that side line is lined up.
Everything's lined up good. We're going to get the rest of the bolts in place. And then up on the top of the transmission, on the bell housing on each side, you've got these E12s, one on each side. A lot of guys like to replace these with a standard hex head, but we're just going to reuse these guys. Trying to get that E12 bolt back in the top there. You got it?
Yeah.
Not an easy one to reach.
Yeah.
All right, we got the transmission bolted up to the engine. All that torque. Now we just got to hook up all the little bits. All right, we're going to hook up the speed sensor, some of these other connections, the vet hose on the top there, and we'll start lifting it up into place so that we can hook the shift lever back up. Now go back and refer to my video on removing the transmission to show how that shift lever comes out. There's a little bit of a trick to it. The crank position sensor. Okay, go ahead and kind of drop it straight down. Can you angle it back more? Back more. There you go, and then just go straight down. There we go. And you can see, yeah, there's a spring, and then how that little retainer. So you just gotta find how that's keyed, push it down, and then slide it over and lock it in place. Easier said than done though. And I found it's easiest to, you kind of hug the transmission almost. One arm on each side, get up in there. So you can kind of push down on it and slide it over. All right, there we go. It's locked in place, and little rubber boot on the very top. So that actually went in a lot easier than some of them I fought with. Yep, speed sensors in. So as we're jacking the transmission up, we're just checking both sides, make sure nothing's getting hung up, make sure wire harnesses are out of the way. This wire harness kind of goes up to the right side of the shifter, up to the engine. And we're just kind of like double checking things, vent tubing, that nothing's getting hung up as we're going up. A little WD-40 on the shift linkage to help slide those nylon parts back in. They fit tight. Is there anything else on the transmission, or is that it?
I think that was it.
The last bit. Shift linkage is all done, looks good. David's just getting the transmission onto a jack stand so we can get the transmission jack out of the way, and then we'll hook up the drive shafts. So David's getting the front drive shaft put back together. We marked the drive shaft when we took it out so we can get it back in the exact same spot. Can you turn the drive shaft a little bit so we can show them? We got one wheel up off the ground here. It makes it a lot easier to get to the bolts on the drive shaft there. And there's the marks on the drive shaft, so we know we got it back in the same spot. We'll get the strap bolts back in, and that'll be set. You excited to have a new clutch in place?
Oh yeah, it'll be nice.
It'll be much improved. And we've got a little Loctite on those bolts as well. He's torquing the drive shaft to transfer case flange bolts to 22 foot-pounds. A little bit of Loctite on the strap bolts. And rear drive shaft is going in. And we're torquing that to 14 foot-pounds. The final bits on installing the exhaust. You got some anti-seize on those bolts?
Yep, we do.
Anti-seize is a good idea on your exhaust. And the cross member finally going back up. Okay, all right, tighten those down a little bit. And finally our transmission mount bolts. Get these nuts on and we'll be set. Nice crispy treat. Broken cross member bolt. So when we took off the cross member, when we were dropping the transmission, that bolt right there broke. We could not get it out from the bottom, so we had to cut the top. We're going to be replacing the floorboards on this, so cutting a little access hole was no big deal. And down inside, that's where those cross member mounting bolts go. We're just going to put a temporary bolt in there and then weld one in permanently later. What are you getting ready to do?
Get ready to put the starter back in.
Put the starter in, all right. Yeah, one bolt is longer than the other. One of them is kind of deep set. So there's a top and bottom too. There we go, all lined up. We got it done. I think that's it. Rear drive shaft, front drive shaft, cross member, transmission mount, what else?
the starter.
Got the starter in.
Yep.
Last thing we have to do is the slave cylinder, master cylinder set. We're actually going to replace that on this, but if you're not replacing it, you just got to bolt that slave cylinder back in place, and then that's it on transmission installation.
Yep.
So there you guys go. Thank you guys for watching. Have a good day. There you have it.